So today we're going to be installing a retrofit light housing in our spare bedroom. You can see that I've already done 3 of these. I'm going to be putting a 4th where that yellow X is and showing you how to install a DMF housing with a Cree light. Okay, so when doing lights like this, so these are new lights, I like using these retrofit housings, they're called. So I've used in the past, Cree makes a retrofit housing. The part number is RR4 or RR6. This is the 4-inch version would be an RR4. And they're okay. They're not built very well. The top is riveted on and I've split them in half before. I've ruined them. They're a little bit less expensive than the one that's in my hand. This is a DMF housing. So this is an M4 RMRS. These are available from Assess Garage. I'll put a link in the description. I like these DMF housings a lot better than I like the Cree housings. Either one of them are going to work for this though. Obviously we're installing a Cree light. This will go into the DMF housing, but it will also go into any other housing like a Cree or whatever. So you can see on the bottom there are knockouts. There are 4 knockouts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to allow your wires to go into them. So this takes regular Romex, like NM cable, right into the bottom. So you just pop this knockout off with a screwdriver. You just pry it back, it pops right off, and then you can stick the wire through. I'm not going to pop this off yet. I'm going to do it inside the attic when I'm running the wire through. Inside the housing, you can see that there are 2 spring-loaded tabs. So those are what are actually going to keep this in. And this is just really, really rigid and it stays very well. There's also foam all the way around it for sealing. And inside, because it's a metal housing and because DMF lights have metal flanges, they ground this. So the actual housing gets grounded. On the Cree, the housing gets grounded, but it's back in the wiring unit. So I would recommend these. They're a little bit more expensive. These are about 30 bucks. I think the Cree ones are like 20, but I think that these are a lot nicer. And like I said, I've used both. When I did my office, I did the DMF housings. When I did my closet, I did the Cree housings, and I would just prefer to purchase these even though they're a little bit more money. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to figure out your dimensions. So this room is 11 by 12 foot 4. So that meant that what I like to do is kind of do quarters. So a quarter in. So if you've got 12 foot 4, that's 3 foot 1 from the wall, 3 foot 1 from that wall. And then in the middle, we're going to have 6 foot 2. And what that means is your flood is going to be even on both sides and you're going to end up in the center getting the flood from both lights. And then I had 11 feet, which is 2 foot 9. So I've got this, this is a Bosch laser measurer. So what I did was I just measured from the wall, so there's 2 foot 9, measured from this wall, 3 foot 1. I stuck a piece of tape there and marked it. Obviously my first piece of tape was slightly off because I wasn't able to get from this wall all the way. But you don't want to draw on your ceiling with Sharpie if you can avoid it, because if you have to move it somewhere else, it could be a problem. So once you figure out your dimensions, like I said, ideally I like quarters. Next you want to see, do you have anything in the way? So this is where your stud finder is going to come in handy. Now in this ceiling, my studs run this way, or my joists, I guess they would be. They run this direction. So looking here, we've got one right here, and we've got one right there. So I'm very clear. Now, obviously you want to measure here and test this out, and then you also want to measure over there and test this out because my studs run this way. If I'm 2 foot 9 from this wall and clear, I'm going to be clear behind me because my studs run this way. Over here, I may not be, depending on where they land, right? So I like to mark out all 4 first. I like to make sure that my stud finder is clear, and then I can drill. And that way, if there is a stud, maybe at 2 foot 11, which isn't going to allow me to clear, well, maybe I do 2 foot 8, And over there I can do 2'8", and that's all fine. It just allows me to make sure that I have consistency. The quarters aren't as important as the consistency from the walls. So I could be 2 feet from this wall and 2 feet from that wall, it'll look fine. I could be 2'9" from this wall and 2'9" from that wall, it's gonna look fine. You just wanna be consistent. The next important thing, so this is a Milwaukee can light drill bit. So it has adjustable width. There's like these metal wings on here. And I have them set at 4.5 inches. That's what the DMF calls for. Just read the instructions for whatever can you're using. Cree is normally a 1/4 inch over, so a 4 would be a 4 1/4. On DMF, it's a 1/2 inch over. Again, they're just kind of more robust, thicker housings. And I'm using, this is the Milwaukee M18. This is the new 2904. And I highly recommend this drill. I had the older version of it, the Gen 3. One thing that they added to this that the old one doesn't have is an anti-kickback. So with this giant 4.5 inch hole saw that's basically on the end of this, if it catches the drywall, it has a tendency to like twist your wrist. And this has anti-kickback, so it doesn't do that. So we're going to get at our mark. I'm going to get the drill spinning, and then we're going to push it in, and this should cut my, my circle right out. So, okay, there we are. You can see how easy that was. This drill is awesome, and so is this bit. I grabbed a little bit of insulation, but there's my disc that I drilled right out. So I'm gonna take this drill and put it down on the ground, and we'll come back here. So now we can remove our tape. Like I said, the tape was just there in case I needed to move the mark. You don't necessarily need tape if you're, really good, I guess. You could just mark it, cut it, shove it in there. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to install this. So this housing pushes right up like this. And you could see that the drill bit didn't really make a mess, which is pretty awesome. Now that we're up, we can push these tabs in and they latch into place. And now we're in. So now next, I have to go up in the attic and I have to push the cable, the physical wire, through. All right, so I'm going to talk about my plan for wiring here. This room happens to have 2 switches. So I happen to luck out in this. This switch here controls the light in the ceiling. This switch here controls a receptacle that's over in that corner, but it only controls half of the receptacle. So if you look at a standard receptacle like this, you'll see on the side there is a copper bar with a little tab. If you cut that tab, you can actually split the receptacle in half. So what they did when they built this house is over in the corner there, they powered the bottom half of the receptacle all the time, and the top half of the receptacle is connected to this switch. So I actually have a wire that goes up, over, and down on that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that receptacle with one that doesn't have this cut. So that receptacle will be standard, always hot, stay on. And the wire that goes up, over, and back down, I'm going to pull that up and I'm going to use that to power my lights. Now I could obviously use the wire that's already in the ceiling for the light that's already there to run these lights. I could just remove that light and I could block the hole in and be done with it, right? But my plan for this is to install a fan. So I'm going to put a fan where the light currently is, and then this other switch is going to run my new lights. So for now, that light is going to stay until my fan comes in, and then I will replace that light with a fan. As you can see, the wire is now pushed through the ceiling. I went into the attic and pushed it through from the back side of the housing. I'm going to be stripping off the casing of the Romex cable. This is 14.2, standard NM style cable. Once we strip the wire casing, we're left with 3 wires, a copper ground, a white neutral, and a black hot wire. It is important that you shut the breaker off when you're doing this type of work. We're going to cut the paper casing off of the ground wire, so that is now exposed. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to connect the ground wire to the ground on the DMF can. So we're going to strip the end of that, leave it nice and long, and we're going to cut the copper wire back to length to match the length of our green ground cable, and twist the wires together. Once we have them sufficiently twisted together, we'll cut this to length and we'll put a metal ferrule on the end of it and crimp the grounds together as per code. In my hand, you could see the metal ferrule. I'm going to put that into a pair of lineman's pliers and we're going to crimp that on the ground. Once that is crimped into place, we can twist the wires together to add a little bit extra protection from them coming apart. And then we will push the ground cables that are now crimped together up into the light housing. Next, we're going to open up our Cree light. Inside the Cree light, you will find the light itself, as well as two different style adapters. One is the standard Edison adapter that you can see is attached to the light. The other is the GU26, which is the 2-pin European style adapter. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to use this pigtail from this GU26 adapter. We're going to cut that end off since we won't be using it. And then we can strip the wires, the white and black, that are on this adapter. And that's what we're going to be wiring into our housing. This will allow us to plug our can light in. Next, we will strip our hot and neutral wires that are in the ceiling. We will take this adapter that we just made by cutting off the GU26, and we will twist that together with the wires that are in the ceiling. Now, there are multiple ways that you can connect wires in junction boxes like this. Some people use Wago connectors, some people use wire nuts. I have used both. I have had success with both. In this case, I will be using wire nuts because that's what I have handy. So we're going to be twisting on an orange wire nut because I have two 14 gauge connectors here that I am connecting together, and that is within spec for a orange wire nut. Once I've twisted them together, I do like to twist the wires together a little bit further so that, again, there is some connectivity between the wire jackets themselves holding each other together. Now that we've connected our second wire together, we're going to tuck the wire nuts as well as the Romex up into the housing, leaving just the 2-pin connector hanging below. We're going to take our light, remove the Edison style connector, connect our 2-pin connector to the harness that we connected in the ceiling, and push the light up into the ceiling. There are little metal tabs that stick out of the side of these lights that are spring loaded, so as you push them into the ceiling, they should go in and not come out. If you need to remove one of these lights, you will twist it in a counterclockwise fashion and the tabs will turn themselves in. I'm now going to go out and turn the breaker back on and make sure everything is good to go. Now that I've turned the breaker on, you can see that I successfully have light from my new lights. I think these Cree lights produce a great quality of light. I chose a 3500 Kelvin color for this room because it is a beige colored room with a kind of a creamy colored wall, white ceilings. I think the 3500 with the additional whiteness makes the room look great. As I back out of the room, you'll see the amount of light coverage that I have is really, really great, and the room is very well lit. In the future, we can add a dimmer switch to replace the existing light switch because these are dimmable fixtures. And of course, we will change out our boob lamp for a ceiling fan in the future as well. So thank you for watching and have a great day.